9-4 is your homework. I know it's Friday. Sorry about it. It's not due till Tuesday. So if you don't get it done over the weekend, it's okay. But I encourage you to get it done over the weekend. My little funny thing to start class with is a limerick. And some of you probably know what a limerick is. Some of you might not. It doesn't zoom in very well. So, a limerick is... Who can kind of describe a limerick in easy?
I know what a limerick is, but I can't explain it.
Isn't it a poem that it spells words that go down?
Not that it spells words as it goes down. It's a poem that kind of it has. Have you ever heard of iambic pentameter? It kind of has like a rhythm as you read it, and it like rhymes and it kind of just sounds funny. So this was something that a friend of mine posted and tagged me on Facebook. They're like, "Hey, Micah Hudson, you'll like this, and so will all my other nerdy friends." Because nerd is not like a bad thing anymore. I have like a whole group of friends, and we're like, yeah, we're the nerdy friends in our group, and we get together and play nerdy games and stuff. But here you go. So none of this stuff at the top matters up until we get to here. So when you look at this equation, you're probably thinking, how can an equation be a limerick? Well, if we read what's right here, it's the verbal description of what's shown in that equation. So a dozen, a gross. Anyone know what a gross is? Nick? Yeah, it's a dozen dozens. So a gross is a dozen dozens. Anyone know what a score is when Abe Lincoln in his speech said 4 years ago? A score is 20. So we have a dozen, a gross, and a score, plus 3 times the square root of 4 divided by 7 plus 5 times 11 equals 9 squared and not a bit more. So if you read it straight through, it's got that rhythm, that rhyming. It is a limerick. It's a mathematical limerick. What can I do for you, Mr. Combs?
What blocks do you teach, or are you teaching Tuesday of next week?
All of 1, 2A, and 3B. So I have 2B and 3A off. I have like right next to lunch off.
All right, gotcha.
So there's your mathematical limerick to start off your Friday. I need everybody to also have out their 9-2 notes as we go through the lesson. I'm going to circulate the room and check that your 9-2 notes are completely filled out to make sure that you do have all of that completed so that you can do your homework over the weekend and hopefully be successful.
What were you talking on the computer, like the elephants are scared now?
Yeah,
Where's your video?
if we have time at the end of class, I'll show you guys a little Mythbusters video about that. We had huh?
What that message should
I'll show you at some point today, even if it has to be lunch. In one of our problems, it talked about an elephant being afraid of a mouse. And this is like an old, not really like a myth, but an old saying, or like an old something that people believe, is that elephants are afraid of mice. So the Mythbusters, being the Mythbusters, decided to test this out, and their findings were actually pretty surprising. So here, again, is a reminder on your distributive property. What should we always draw first when we're working on distributing? Miriam?
Arrow.
We want to draw the arrows. So on your paper right now, you need to draw the arrows from the A into both values in the parentheses. So A to the B, A to the C, and then A to the B and A to the C here. Now, what is weird about that symbol that I just pointed my arrow to down below? What's the problem with that? Why is that a little challenging when we distribute? And one of the biggest things that gives you guys problems is when you have options. Mia? Is it because what? Okay, yeah, we only have variables because this is called the algebraic representation.
It's because there's what's it called? The negative thing.
Ooh, so it could be a negative or it could be subtraction. So here they take it as subtraction, but this could also be AB plus A times negative C. You have the option whether you take that as a negative or whether you take it as a minus. That's totally up to you. Does that make sense? You have the option whether we take it as a subtraction or whether we take it as a negative. So our first step in most of everything that we do today is going to be we have to distribute. We have to simplify first, and then we'll be able to solve it. So when I start this process, again, our extra notes are going to be right here in this folder, if anybody misses them. We need to first draw what, Miriam?
The arrow.
We got to draw the arrows. So everybody draw the arrows from the 3 to the P and from the 3 to the 5.8. Now I'm going to write out all of my work here. If you're struggling at all with distribution, you need to write out all this work with me too, and write it kind of smaller so that you have space. This is 3 times P is what the first arrow tells me. Then I have 3, and I'm going to put this in parentheses since I'm multiplying two numbers. It just keeps it a little nicer. 3 times 5.8, that is still less than negative 28.2. So each arrow tells me a multiplication to do. My 3 times my P, that's easy, just 3P. 3 times 5.8, I can break that up. What's 3 times 5? 15, so remember that. What's 3 times 8? 8, 16, 24. But instead of 24, because it's 0.8, it's 2.4. So that actually gives me 17.4 is less than or equal to negative 28.2. So now that we've done the simplification, we've done that distribution, we now need to start solving. How do we start our solution process here? Colin, what do you think? What's the first thing?
They're subtracting 17.4, but
Are we it's subtracting or we want to? Yeah, we have to subtract. So because we see the addition on both sides and you want to write out this work, we subtract the 17.4, and I'm going to have to erase my work before I graph mine. If you're running out of space, try to shift your work over or something. You can always draw a line and then bring your next part back up. So I'll show you what I mean. If I want to move my work over, I showed my subtraction on both sides. Now I'm going to move over here and say I still have 3P. This is still less than or equal to. But this, I have a negative minus, so it goes further negative. Nick, what'd you get?
negative 45.6.
45.6. Make sure it's negative. And now to finish solving this, Todd, what do I want to do to finish getting the P by itself?
You time what you put that as a in
So ask yourself, what's happening to the P?
the P changes, so that's the things around it.
What do you mean there's no things around it?
The
I think you're thinking of parentheses, but those aren't there. How is the 3 and the P attached? What operation?
addition between.
Well, there was addition over here, but now I'm over on the right side of the screen. If I just have 3P and they're right up against each other, there's no symbol between them because I don't have to draw it. But if I draw it,
You multiply.
it's multiplication. So how do we undo that?
You do 3. You do 3 times. No, 3P under.
What operation's the opposite? I know you're thinking it, but
Yeah.
I want you to say the word.
I know.
The opposite of multiplication
Addition.
is
No, so division.
division. We got to divide on both sides.
That's how some.
Now, don't fall into the trap. Do I flip my inequality sign around here? No. Even though this is a negative number, what I'm doing, the division that I'm performing, is with a positive. So my inequality sign stays the same direction. I get P is less than or equal to negative 15.2. Yes, I have tape. I also have new pencils if your pencil is, there's tape. So, I'm going to capture this and I'm going to clear it so that I can graph it so I have a little bit of space. How do I know, actually I don't need to clear it to graph it. How do I know where to put my circle or where to put my bubble or whatever you want to call it? How do I always start? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the number that I have, that's where I start. So I put my dot or my bubble, and we like to call it actually just a circle, because at first I never shaded in at first. So I find my point right about here would be negative 15.2. Then I decide, do I shade it in? How do I decide if I shade it in? Okay, we'll go back to you.
If it's equal to,
If it has the extra part of the inequality, the or equal to, it is shaded. So we do shade this in. And then if my P is less than or equal to, what direction do I shade? What values are less than that dot? You're saying this way? Towards me? Well, these values are more. Anything up here is more than. If I want it to be less than, I got to go this way and put an arrow at the end so you know it keeps going on. Left. When my variable is on the left side, I think it was Colin who brought this up yesterday. When my variable's on the left side, the inequality symbol actually points the direction we shade. Notice how this is pointing left. This right here, guys, is pointing to the left. That tells me what direction to shade. As long as my variable comes first, this points the direction that I shade. Questions, comments, concerns? All right, try the got it on your own. You want to start by distributing and then work it from there. You may use a calculator. I'm going to come around and check your 9-2 notes and answer any questions that you might have.
Make sure we get these finished, because we did this in class yesterday, so that should be cool. Sure. Okay, show me a second, okay? So you gotta show me on Monday. Guys, this stuff should stay in your binder. It should be clipped in the section. You should not have to look for it. None of these should be here. You need to take some time today to get that fixed. And make sure you put your name on that. Guys, your name should be on any paper that sits on your desk in front of you, should have your name on it. Okay, we need to see them sometime. My list is getting longer than I want it to be. Any paper that sits in front of you should have your name on it. Thanks for fixing that stuff. It's just that whole pride in your work. You're putting time and effort into it. You should have your name on it. Me too. Oh, nice. Awesome. You might want to get some tape on here so that it doesn't go any further. Or aside from that. Okay. Here, I'll get you this tape. All right, we're doing cards. Each card is going to give me one step in the process, okay? Ty, what do I do first? How do I start?
Well, first, if you can see, I can't see very well. I'm going to get glasses today.
Good.
You know what? I'm just gonna look on my paper.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
We have 23, 231. We have to distribute that.
We have to distribute. I love it. Ty, can you go ahead and tell me what you got when you did that distribution?
I haven't got that far.
Okay. So I know the 231Q, that's an easy multiplication to do. but then minus, anyone figure out what 231 times 35 was?
3085.
What?
3085.
3,085, you mean? So notice I took my minus as a minus. I just brought it down as a minus between the numbers. I still have a minus between the numbers. Any questions on the first step I did?
I got like 8.
Gonna have to verify your calculations then.
Like 80. Like 8 instead of a 3.
Yeah. Sorry, this should be 8,085. Good catch. Thank you very much. This is why we need multiple people checking the calculations, guys. Don't just sit there like a bump on a log. You should be doing this work. The next step I want to do, Alpha.
For me, I just flipped the equation around.
So now this is a step you don't have to do, but I like that Alpha did do it. We like our variables to be on the left side. So what Alpha's saying he did is he flipped the whole thing around. So I'm going to bring my 231Q over to the left side. I'm going to bring my minus 8085 over to the left side. My 56 over to the right side. But my inequality symbol was a greater than. When I flip everything around, my left to my right side, this has to flip around, and now it's less than. So now my inequality, or my inequality reads 231Q minus 8085, or 8,085, is less than 56. You don't have to do that. If you didn't do it, you should still end up with the same answer that we're going to end up with. Ashley, what should we do now if we want to start solving? Exactly. We add 8,085 to each side. Thank you very much. That now gives me just 231Q is less than. This is going to be a large number. Sorry? 8,141. Alex, what? Huh? Okay. I mean, just get yourself caught up.
Divide them.
What do you mean divide them? Divide what?
Wait, what is that beside the one?
This is a Q.
Oh.
Sorry, that's my lowercase
So
q.
then try to get rid of the 231.
Yeah, we got to get rid of the 231, so that's what we divide by. And that then, when I do that division, Q is less than
35.2.
I'm going to check the math. Yeah, good job, man. 35.2. This is rounded to the nearest tenth, but that's totally fine. Now, if you did not take the step that Alpha took, if you did not flip this around, you would have gotten 35.2 is greater than Q. Either way, this says the same thing. Because to graph this, Brayden, how do I start graphing?
You started 35.2 roughly where that
We
is.
start at 35.2 as close as I can get to that. Then we ask ourselves,
It doesn't have the other key, so it's open.
yeah, we ask, do we shade it? And Brayden already identified it does not have the or equal to, so we do not shade it. And then what direction do I shade, Brayden? Yeah, to the left. Because Q is less than that. Or if I read 35.2 is greater than Q, that means that this number is bigger than any value that is Q. So all my Q values have to be to the left or less than. Questions on this? You feeling okay? Anything not make sense? Anybody have an issue that they want to like figure out what it was? All right. So there's a big thing in teaching called wait time. They say that nobody's going to immediately answer or immediately say they had an issue, so you have to wait and hope that somebody will. But if nobody does, then you just move on. All right, so some inequalities that we approach are going to have variables in more than one location, not more than one variable. So not like a w, an x, and a y. You'll get there eventually in math, working with multiple variables. But what we're talking about is problems that have a variable on both sides. So let's check out this situation. We've got shake with your hand. When they use machines like that, it's a lot more. It still doesn't shake it that much. So a farmer harvests 25 bushels of Macintosh apples. If you never realized why Macintosh products are called apple, that's why. Macintosh is a type of apple. Yeah, there's your connection for the day. Now it all makes sense. Yeah, that's why the symbol is an apple with a bite taken out of it. Their company name originally was Macintosh, and Apple is like, it's kind of like a nickname in a way. Yeah. So, like a MacBook is short for Macintosh. All right, moving on. Bring it back. Bring it back. Bring it back now, y'all. 2 hops this time. Okay, I knew I'd get somebody. All right. A farmer harvests 25 bushels Macintosh apples. I think that's going to be important. Now, a bushel is like a quantity. It's like a basket or something like that. Each day. So that's every day he can harvest 25 bushels. And he harvests 18 bushels of Granny Smith. They're growing 2 different types of apples. In how many days will he have more than 100 bushels to sell? So I want to know what he has. So what we're harvesting needs to be more than 100. So I would write your verbal, and I didn't really leave much space in the words area, so right beneath where yours stops. So if I pull up your notes, is this math 7? It is. No, I'm sorry, bud. Go fast. So you have it right here. I would write harvest more than 100. That's what we want. We want him to have harvested over 100. Make sure your harvest has a T on it. I don't know why. I forgot mine there. So we want to harvest over 100. Now, what we are harvesting comes from 2 different things. We've got Granny Smith, and we've got Macintosh. But that's each day. So when something happens each day, and this might help you, I would above it put times D. Anytime you see per day or each day or every day, that always means it's going to happen multiple times, so we have to multiply. So we then can write on the left side, I've got 25 every day of Macintosh, and so we add 18 of Granny Smith each day. You with me, Ty? Is gonna be greater than 100. Now, do I care what type of apples I have? No. In the how many days will he have more than 100 bushels to sell? We don't care what type it is. I just want more than 100 bushels. Like Chris, my buddy who came here from the farm, maybe they don't go to farmer's market until they have 100 bushels. Because they assume I need that much to take with me to make it worth my time. So, can we do anything on the left side here? If I have a 25D and an 18D, Ty?
You can subtract the 18D.
Ooh.
I mean 18, just the 18.
Why?
Because it's adding, and then we can multiply the D by
Here's the
D.
thing though. They both are D terms, so we don't have a constant. We add and subtract when we have a constant. You want to rephrase what you think we can do?
We can just take away the D's.
You're close. What?
Just add them together.
These are like terms. They have the same variable to the same power because they both have a power of 1. I can combine those. If I want to look at how many total bushels I gather every day, well, I gather 25 of those, 18 of these. Together, I'm gathering 18 plus 25, 43 bushels every day. My combined bushels that I'm gathering, that I'm harvesting, are 43 each day. I want that to be over 100. Now, Mr. Eisel, what do I do to get the D by itself? Divide by what?
43.
Yeah, by the 43. And that will leave me with D is greater than, it's going to be more than 2, less than 3. 2.3. Well, think about it, Miriam. If I had 2 of the 43, that's 86. That's not enough. If I have 3, that'd be 129. That's too many. But if D is greater than 2.3, and that's days, what's my realistic answer? How many days would I need to wait to go to market? If it needs to be more than 2.3,
3 days.
3 days. So in 3 days, I could go to market. Could I go in 4 days? Yeah. Could I go in 5 days? Yeah. Any amount of days more than the 2.3. Questions on this? This is the sort of math that people think about. People with businesses or farms or anything like that. Because to get to market, you got to spend your gas, you got to spend your time, you're not on the farm, you got to take your stuff there. There's a lot to think about. So anytime we see like terms, you always want to combine them. Yeah. So try this on your own. You should notice that we have a W here and a W there. These are like terms. I don't like assigning homework on Friday because I know it's the weekend and no, there is. I just don't like that I had to assign homework today, so I apologize.
Wait, doesn't that go on Monday?
Because we need to keep moving forward because there's only so many days in the year. Who else still needed to show me their notes? Give me a quick hand if you still needed to show me notes. Okay, I got you, Alex. Miriam, didn't you need to show me notes still?
Oh, yeah.
No, don't. I'm just writing you down so I get you later. And then. Yeah, thank you. We should be solving this on our own. You should have a value for W when I look at your paper. Okay, if you work with each other during class, that's fine. Okay, so when I say try it on your own, that really means try it without my help. If you use help from like a friend or a neighbor, that's okay. Lainey, what is the first thing that I want to do here?
I'm not sure, but is it going to be that you divide either the 3 2/5 or the 1/4?
Now, I like that you asked it like that because you're right. In your head, you're thinking, well, this is multiplied by my variable and that's multiplied by my variable. I got to get rid of both of them. But we put them together first. So before we can divide, and you actually, I would like if you guys off to the right here in your notes
Write combine like terms. We always have to start by looking for like terms and combining them if possible. My K looks like a child. Combine like terms. You can give yourself an exclamation smiley face if you want.
I'm gonna draw a
I was saying smarties. You know what I mean?
Not really, because there's no way to get smarter except to learn. Now, I like improper fractions. I think they're great. They're nice and easy to work with. So I'm going to make these improper first. You know what they are improper, Miriam?
Yeah, it's
Triangle method.
17 over 5.
Yep, 17 fifths with the W still,
And the other
plus
one is 9 over 5.
still 5, yep. Now, us having the same denominators means I can just add them together without doing anything else. So I'm going to add my 17 and my 9 to combine these like terms. I get 26 over 5W. Now, I can either turn this back in to a mixed number, but that's not the easiest way to solve. I can do one more step and have my answer.
Yep.
Because when I have a fraction in front of my variable, I know that I can get rid of that fraction if I just multiply by the reciprocal. So we multiply by 5 over 26. We multiply by 5 over 26. And over here, I want to put this over a 1 just to make it look nice. What can I do that makes me oh so happy because it makes my life easier? That doesn't make my life easier. That gives you cavities. Jennifer? Ooh, close. We cross. Reduce. Because the 26 and the 26 are the same thing. They disappear. They turn into 1s. So that's a 1 and that's a 1. The only number that I have left over here that isn't a 1 is the 5. So what I get is that W is less than or equal to 5. That's it. And if you had that answer before we solved it together, give yourself a pat on the back.
Thank you.
See?
Good job, self. Way to go. You're so smart. I'm glad that I am you. All right, now, like Saeed and Jennifer and Miriam back there working together, you have a classmate that you know has made a mistake. This, for sure, is wrong. Your teachers told you so. But maybe your teacher wasn't wonderful, and I'm guilty of this sometimes. Maybe they just marked it wrong and didn't show you where it was wrong, which sometimes that's on purpose. Sometimes we really want you guys to go back and find your mistake on your own so that you don't do it again. So we want to look through this process and see where does the mistake come in. Now on the last mastery, a few of you guys were struggling with realizing that when I see a number right up against parentheses in an equation or an inequality, because remember this is an inequality, what do we always have to do first? It's not even a question of do we or don't. It's we have to do this first. Yeah? So we're thinking through PEMDAS. I can't do inside the parentheses. There are no exponents. Not yet. Ben? We gotta distribute. Now here's the thing that messes a lot of you up. What number am I distributing?
16.
Negative 16. The sign in front of the number goes with the number. But the sign in front of, because it's gonna go to two places, you do have the option. You could use it as a minus, but that makes your work harder. It's easier to just say it's a negative 16 going to Z, and it's a negative 16 going to 3. So think through this math. The 12 did nothing. It dropped down. Okay, it stayed the same. Negative 16 times Z. Negative 16Z or minus 16Z. Good. Negative 16 times negative 3. What's a negative times a negative? A positive. So they get plus 48. Is 16 times 3 48? Yeah, it is.
And my inequality symbol stays the same. My 21 stays the same. It all just drops down. Was there a mistake in my first step? No, my first step is good. So go ahead and put a little check mark next to it if you want. As I move down to my third step, like my second step in between, what have they done? What did they do to get from the second step to the third step? Sam, do you see what they did? How they got from this step right here down to this step here? You can always pass. Ben?
They added 12 and 48.
They added the 12 and the 48. So actually, some of you, this would benefit a lot. If you're working on this on your paper, I would write here, write distribute. And right here, what Ben just told me is they combined the 12 and the 48. So what they did was combine, what do we call it?
Like terms.
Like terms. We combine like terms, numbers with the same variable, same power, but we don't deal with powers much yet. Then, what were they doing from the third step to the fourth step?
They subtracted 6. No.
They subtracted 60, right? It's gone. The only way to get rid of it is to subtract it. So they subtracted 60. So if they take 21 minus 60, they got 39. They did 21 minus 60 and they got 39. Tie?
So they subtracted, so that means 21, that's not going to be like right, so they have to go negative something.
This 39 should be negative.
Yes.
That is where their mistake is. Stay where you're supposed to stay. I'm going to put a surprised exclamation face there.
Oh my god.
Uh-oh. Should have had negative. There used to be, way before texting, there used to be an online instant messenger service
Yeah.
called ICQ. Yeah, you guys have never. It's
I know.
ICQ. I don't even know what, like, if it was an acronym. But when you got a message, it would say, uh-oh. So, like, all that, my sister would be online instant messaging, and from the other room, all you would hear is, uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. I'm like, turn the sound off. So, then, we could fix this for them. If you were trying to fix your friend's work, you could then say z is less than, this should have been negative 39 divided by the negative 16. Because they divide by a negative 16, what else has to happen? Jennifer, what?
You have to change the
Yeah, your inequality symbol, get used to saying that inequality symbol would have to flip because they divide, well, I'm going to drag this up a little bit. I'm going to show the correct work. So they had negative, I don't want that color. They had negative 16z is greater than negative 39. Sorry, if you already wrote your work, check your inequality symbol because the last one I wrote, I already flipped it. I'm going to show where we flip it. So then we divide by negative 16. We divide by negative 16. That makes us flip it. So now we get z is less than, and that's going to be some decimal value. We can round this to approximately 2.44. So if we corrected their work, we'd get z is less than 2.44. So if your friend comes to you and says, man, I need some help. I know I've got a mistake. That would be like when you get back a progressing and you're trying to figure out what in the world you did wrong if we don't go over it together. So now, try your skills. Try your skills to find the mistake here. Prize for the first person to find the mistake.
Found it.
No, you didn't. You didn't have time to think about it.
Was it last time, Ben?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, you guys have to remember to come get your prize. Braden, your hand was up. So walk through it with me. What did they do first? There was no distribution to be done.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
I don't.
Wait.
They didn't need to distribute. There's nothing to distribute. All right, moving on. Sorry, Lainey.
The inequality symbols going the wrong way because there's a negative. Oh, yeah.
So the inequality symbol starts as greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and then flips direction. So are you saying this one's the wrong way, or like what are you actually saying?
The last one's the right one, but it's the ones before it that's wrong because it's divided or multiplied by a negative.
So what did they divide by?
A positive number.
But if they divided by a positive, we don't need to.
Oh, they divided by a negative.
Sorry.
So it would be positive 4 because a negative.
Nope. Ben?
Their subtraction was wrong.
Nope. Because if you start at a negative, so we're going to list what they did. First, they combined like terms. So you need to write this on your paper. And you can abbreviate LT if you want. They combined like terms. We can start abbreviating that. Todd, you with us? We're writing down what they did step by step. Then, that got them to step 2. After step 2, they subtracted 8.6 from both sides. So if I show that, we have a minus 8.6, minus 8.6. That does get me down to negative 32.
Oh, I did it wrong.
Alpha, what do they do then?
After that, after they subtracted by 8.42, they brought down the 8h, and which is 1.
How do they get from this step to the final step?
They divided by 8 on both sides.
They divided by 8. But look at this, guys. What you divided by, what you did, was with a positive number. This is what's wrong. The inequality symbol should not be pointed that direction. This should be H is greater than or equal to negative 4. That should be your answer. That's what would be correct.
I'm like, why did that switch?
So you always need to ask yourself, am I supposed to switch? The only time we do switch is when we do multiplication or division with a negative. When we divided, it was by a positive. Please try your homework. Come to class on Monday with any questions or concerns, because we only have one more section in this chapter, and then we're done, and we can take your mastery. So mastery will probably not be until later next week, either Thursday or Friday, but you need to get that homework done. I doubt it.